back, everybody, to the Tennessee Titans franchise here on Madden 23. Today, we'll be continuing the long-term simulation as we go through seasons 9, 10, and 11 today. Before we get started, I have a quick announcement. The team reveal for the Madden 24 franchise will be up this Thursday. That's just a few days away, so make sure to stay tuned for that. We are currently 3 seasons into the long-term sim. We're going to go through 3 more today. We've done a good job of being able to keep the core so far of this team, but it's going to be a little bit harder now that cap space is not in as good of a position as it was, put it that way. Our Titans, of course, three-peated, winning 3 consecutive Super Bowls in a row, and we were well on our way to winning a 4th, and then we allowed a game-winning Hail Mary at the end of the AFC Championship against the Bengals. They ended up beating the Rams in the Super Bowl. I think we would have absolutely handled the Rams in that game had we been able to make it. That was also Romeo Colucci's first MVP season as well. We've seen Derrick Henry and Kevin Byard make it into the Hall of Fame. We might see some more of our veteran players retire and make it to the Hall today as well. Currently, as it stands, 15,000 points is the mark to get into the Hall of Fame. So Harold Landry and Romeo Colucci would already be Hall of Famers, with Caleb Farley, Scottie Pickens, and Cardell Simpson very close. Romeo's only played 5 seasons, yet if he retired right now, he'd be a Hall of Famer. He also has a Hall of Fame bank account. In the last episode, he signed a 7-year extension for $434 million, an all-time NFL record in terms of annual value. So with him making over $60 million a year, cap space is going to be a lot more sparse, and we're going to have a lot more tough decisions in terms of bringing players back and letting them go. And that starts with this season immediately, because we've got a number of good players who are up for contract extensions, and we're not going to have the money to give it to all of them. Let's start with retirements, though. Some big names including Ryan Ramczyk, Vita Vea, Cortland Sutton, Jalen Ramsey, Kenny Clark, Uchenna Nwosu, DeForest Buckner, J.C. Jackson, Nick Chubb, Amari Cooper, Stephon Diggs, Dalvin Cook, and others. So as you take a look at the players we have to re-sign, it's quite a few. We've got $19 million to spend for Garrett Wilson, Nate Davis, Stephon Finger, Josh Sweat, Carlisle Kaplan, Tavares Booker, Josh Parks, Hassan Drame, etc., etc. Spoiler alert, we don't have the money for all these guys, maybe 1 or 2 of them. Of these guys, we're going to let Garrett Wilson go. He's been really good over the last 4 years, but I think we can afford to let him go, and I think we can also let Josh Sweat go as well. We've got a lot of depth at wide receiver and edge rusher. I think bringing back these young defensive backs and young offensive linemen are going to be more of a priority. Josh Parks says no. Tavares Booker says yes. Hassan Drame will say yes, so he is back. Ramir Conwell, the backup running back, will return as well. And then Nate Davis, we're going to give him all of our remaining money. He says no. Of the players here, I think Nate Davis is a priority. I would like to bring him back. Carlisle Kaplan if we can. Josh Parks if we can as well. And then everybody else, unfortunately, will be gone. That'll bring us into free agency. Javonte Williams, Jaden Wilson-Miller, and Christian McCaffrey headline the list. Roman Horn left Seattle. If we had the money, I would 1,000% spend it on him. Connor McCarthy is an intriguing player at tackle. A lot of good offensive linemen here. Plenty of good corners as well. But unfortunately, we don't really have the money to spend. We only have around $9 million. And I would like to still bring back Nate Davis. And we're probably going to need to clear up a little bit if we want him back. So we're going to make some trades to clear up some money. Kareem Buwari's been a key special teamer for a while, but we're going to trade him to the Chargers for a 3rd. Dallas Douglas, Shinogo Chusier, and Barry Swan are going to the Colts for a 2nd-round pick. Eli and Ashton Young, they might be twins, are going to the Cowboys for a future 4 and a future 5. And then Hicks, Meredith, and Day are going to the Eagles for a future 4. So that's going to be enough cap space for us to sign Nate Davis. He's still a really good starter, even though he's 33 years old. I would like for him to retire a Titan. He's been a great player for us for quite a while. I don't think I want him going anywhere else. So we're going to give him pretty much all the money we can for a 1-year deal, and hopefully he ends up accepting. We seem to have the lead on him, and sure enough, he would sign, as we have $70K left in cap space. Let's take a look at the free agency recap. Javonte Williams replaces Nick Chubb in Cleveland. The Browns do lose Jaden Wilson-Miller, though. He signs with the Broncos, who lose Christian McCaffrey to the Dolphins. Roman Horn is now in our division. He is a Colt. Garrett Wilson leaves for the Eagles. Connor McCarthy joins him as well. And Stephon Finger, another former Titan, joins the Eagles. And then Josh Sweat also would sign with the Eagles, funny enough. So Sweat returns to Philly, and former Titans Garrett Wilson, Josh Sweat, and Stephon Finger will all team up with the Eagles. We had some of our guys also not get signed. Josh Parks did sign with the Bills, though. But quite a few players left unsigned, including Dayton Randall III and Carlisle Kaplan at center. I assume these guys are going to catch on pretty quickly in the preseason. Sebastian Cross and Alexander Ekwueme as well. Again, I assume they'll get jobs within the near future. Since we have a quarterback who is now making a whole lot of money off of his rookie contract, it's going to be a lot harder for us to re-sign certain players. So because of that, we're going to have to now draft especially well. So it's a good thing that we ended up having a really good draft. I'm excited to show you guys the class. Here's a look at the entire first round. Denton Mahone, a quarterback out of Auburn, ends up being the second overall pick to the New York Giants. He looks quite good. As for us, we really focused on the offensive line. We doubled down on Florida linemen with our top 2 pick with Romeo Hannon, who is hidden development, and Cordell Drake. We got 3 other hidden developments with Quincy Bishop, along with Tyreek Williams and Spencer Wall. So 4 players with hidden development, 3 guys who I think can start pretty soon. That sounds pretty good to me. We're going to kick off the season against the defending champion Bengals, but not on Thursday night. I don't know why they don't have us playing on Thursday night. I guess it's reserved for only when we win the Super Bowl. I don't know. As for the lineup, it does look quite a bit different. The roster has really changed. No more Garrett Wilson. No more Stephon Finger, no more Sebastian Cross on offense. Hot Rod Pryor and Quinn Crew are both going to have really big roles now in the receiving core, along with a new-look offensive line. No more Josh Sweat on defense. Former number 1 pick Julius Mayweather is now going to have a super big role. He's going to have to really step up. I ended up simulating to the midseason mark, and the team is performing fairly well. We're 4-2 in a very competitive division with everybody within a game of each other, including the Texans, who are now, not awful. We have $59 million to spend in the offseason, but Caleb Farley and Cardell Simpson are going to be taking up most of that money. Both guys want around $20 million a year. Rather than offer them 1-year deals, I just want to lock them up, give them big contracts. They'll both accept 3-year extensions, and will return to the team. Quinn Crew is back on a 3-year deal as well. Jeffrey Walker, the punter, will return for 5. Elton George is an undrafted rookie who the game signed with superstar development, so I want to bring him back, although he says no. We only have $11 million left, and we have a few starters still needing new deals, as we ended up going 12-5, grabbing the 3rd seed in the AFC. Not too bad. Immediately, I noticed the one last hurrah storyline. It looks like somebody's planning to retire. We'll get to that in a minute. But first off, Romeo Colucci, my goodness, was he outstanding again. He's now a full 99 overall. He's a 99 in every archetype except for 1. Look at his ratings. I mean, these numbers are just so high. This is Romeo Colucci's peak, and my goodness, is he out of his mind over these last 2 seasons in particular. Elijah Bryant with a great year, career high in rushing yards and touchdowns. Scotty Pickens with 1,600 yards and 22 touchdowns, and he didn't even play the last game of the year. Scotty Pickens has only been in the league for 8 seasons, and I believe he has over 10,000 receiving yards at this point, and well over 100 receiving touchdowns, as he is also a 99 overall at most archetypes as well. Hot Rod Pryor and Quinn Crew also both got over 1,000 yards for the first time in their careers, so it looks like I was right in my judgment to let Garrett Wilson go and let those guys take the reins. Caleb Farley led the way with 4 interceptions. Despite missing half the season with an injury, he is good, though, for the playoffs. Romeo Colucci does officially win the MVP, his 2nd in a row. Very good to see. He is going to be well worth that money. There were some other really good quarterbacks this year, but Romeo does get the upper hand as he takes home another MVP, his 2nd in a row. Najee Harris with the Bucs ended up being the rushing champ. Elijah Bryant finished around 6th or 7th, which is pretty good. Jarvis Carlisle with the Rams had another really good season. I assume he'll take Offensive Player of the Year for the league over Scotty Pickens, which is unfortunate. Had Scotty been able to play the last game of the year, maybe he could have won it, but a minor injury prevented that. He will be good for the playoffs, though. Nick Bosa, 29 sacks. That's a lot. Former number 1 pick, Melly Golden leads the league in interceptions as Scotty Pickens wins the AFC Offensive Player of the Year. Romeo takes the best quarterback, Bryant 4th for the best running back. Scotty Pickens wins the best receiver with Harold Landry, Caleb Farley, and Colin McCain also getting some love. So as I look at the one last hurrah thing, my instant guess was Harold Landry, being that he's 34 and regressing. It could be Nate Davis too, but I think Harold Landry would be the one that makes the most logical sense. And sure enough, it is Harold Landry. It looks like this will be the end of the road for the star pass rusher. He hasn't really regressed in terms of his on-field production. He had double-digit sacks this year, and he always performs really well in the playoffs. So we'll see how he does here. Starting off in the first round with the Los Angeles Chargers, we will be doing a slight change to how we do playoff games. I used to play the moments. Now, in order to make things go a little bit quicker, we're going to simcast, and if the game is close late, we're going to hop in and play. Very competitive game up to this point, as we would take a 14-point lead. Now we seem to have the edge, and it looks like we're going to hold on, winning 27-13 here in the wild card round. It was close going into the second half. I believe we trailed by 1, but then the offense really got rolling. Romeo Colucci was not great, though. He continues to have some on and off, like, dud playoff games. Elijah Bryant also was not all that good, believe it or not. It was the pass rush who won us this game. Justin Herbert got sacked 11 times. Babatunde Mamadou with 5. Danny Dorsey with 2. And the old man, Harold Landry, even had 1 as well. Obviously, Mamadou would win the AFC Defensive Player of the Week, as that'll bring us to the second round against the number 5 seeded Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins are led by former Arizona quarterback Kareem Kamara, who's developed into a very nice player with Miami. He was in the same draft class, I believe, that Romeo Colucci was in. So let's simcast this game now. The Dolphins with a nice early lead. Their offense is playing really well, and we've got to play catch-up. But even with the offense figuring things out, the defense is really struggling. We would tie it at 31, and we would force a turnover, so now we can take the lead, and we will do exactly that. The Dolphins would then very quickly march down the field, and they're having some trouble punching it in, but they eventually would. Kyle McCloskey ties it with 1:16 left on the clock. I think this is where we hop in and try to win the game and bring our Titans back to the AFC Championship for what would be a 5th consecutive season. Short pass over to Scotty Pickens. That'll get to the 40. Titans still have all 3 timeouts as Colucci is sacked by Brown. The Titans would ultimately call timeout number 1 with 45 seconds left on the clock. Now it is a 3rd and 6. Romeo looks to throw it up the middle. Broken up. The Dolphins get the stop, and now they have a chance to win it here in regulation. Jeffrey Walker on to punt it, and it'll be caught inside the 20. With a big return to the left side as he's finally tackled at the 42. The Dolphins have really good field position and all 3 timeouts. If they get around 20, 25 yards, they can be in prime position to kick a field goal. Not a good start for the defense as we allow 11. Miami will call timeout number 1. Down to 21 seconds inside the 50. Kamara up the middle. Short throw for Kyle McCloskey as the defense forgets how to tackle, and McCloskey brings it to the 36. So now the Dolphins would bring it to the 33. There's 2 seconds left on the clock as the Titans are going to look to ice the kicker. It's a 50-yard try to win it in the divisional round for the Dolphins. The kick is up, and it is going to be close. It's no good! He missed it! The Titans season will stay alive as we are headed to overtime. A missed game-winning kick for the Dolphins. As you guys know, tails never fails. And the Dolphins did not get the memo. The tails never fails thing is literally statistically proven. I swear, 80% of the time it legitimately lands on tails. It's not just me making a fun rhyme. So the Titans win the toss. They'll obviously choose to start with the ball. And we'll see what the offense can do here in overtime. Handoff to Elijah Bryant up the middle. That's a good start as he gets it to the 46. Good run for Bryant, who has already scored it twice in this ball game. Following play, another handoff for Elijah Bryant with more rushing room to the left side, and he will make it all the way to the 20-yard line. A huge run for Bryant with 2 huge early runs to start the overtime period. It's now a 3rd and 12, though. Colucci looks to throw it. His pass, risky throw, and it's caught at the 3 by Tyler Snead, of all people. So now the Titans have it near the goal line. 1st and goal, Elijah Bryant will punch it in. If it were for the old playoff rules, the game would be over. But with the new OT rules, the Dolphins will get a chance with the ball still, but they have to score a touchdown. 3rd down and 4 for Miami. Kamara's pass is caught. That'll go for a 1st down by Kyrese Tellington III, the wide receiver out of the University of Akron, making the play. He was in, I believe, the last full draft of the series. 3rd and 13 now. Kareem Kamara under a little bit of pressure. Rolls out, and he is sacked. Harold Landry brings him down. The old man still has some gas left in the tank. 4th and 26. Game on the line for the Dolphins. Kamara looking to throw it. Goes downfield, and it is broken up by Simpson, and that'll do it. The Tennessee Titans hang on to win it 45-38. We very well could have lost this game if not for a 50-yard field goal that was ultimately missed at the end of regulation to win it for the Dolphins, and we obviously took advantage in overtime. Romeo Colucci was pretty solid. Elijah Bryant was great in overtime. Richard Costanzo, the tight end, leads the way in terms of receiving. The defense, not great, but we got stops when we needed, including the big sack by Harold Landry. And so we will face off against the Jaguars in the AFC Championship. They are the number 7 seed. They upset Kansas City in the divisional round. And then in the NFC, could we have a Super Bowl rematch with Carolina? They'll face off against Detroit in the NFC Championship. So let's simulate through this game. Can the Titans make it back to their potentially 4th Super Bowl of the series and the first within the last 2 years? It's a close game here. We take the lead. The Jags get it right back. We're going to simulate a little bit slower, looking to potentially take the lead back. The offense is taking care of business as we would score a touchdown, but the defense is kind of blowing it. Trevor Lawrence would score with just under 2 minutes to go. We're going to hop in. Field goal ties. Touchdown takes the lead for the offense. First down, risky throw, hauled in at the 43 by Hot Rod Pryor. 2nd and 10 now. Colucci with the real route for Elijah Bryant. That was a risky throw, and it works as Bryant makes a nice play after the catch to around the 37-yard line. The Titans are in field goal range. They still have 2 timeouts. Romeo up the middle. Risky throw for Piggins, who gets into the 1. I feel like Romeo maybe shouldn't have gone for such a gutsy pass, but hey, it worked out. Down to 27 seconds at the 1. Elijah Bryant is in for the touchdown. The Tennessee Titans take the lead with 25 seconds left on the clock. As we know from the Bengals game last episode, this one's not over. The Jags have 2 timeouts in 20 seconds. Field goal does nothing. They need a touchdown. Trevor Lawrence heaves it off his back foot on first down. Nearly gets it there. It's caught by the defense. Cardell Simpson with the interception. He will look to return it. Simpson has blocks down the field. Nobody's going to catch him. Cardell Simpson with a 96-yard pick six to send the Titans back to the Super Bowl. What a play off of the Hail Mary by Cardell Simpson to finish it off for the Tennessee Titans. And we will make it back to our 4th Super Bowl in the last 5 years with either the Lions or the Panthers waiting. Romeo Colucci had his best game of the playoffs, over 330 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions. Elijah Bryant, of course, with the game-winning score. Tyler Snead, of all people, had a really good game in the air. And then defensively, not great, but we got the late pick 6 by Cardell Simpson. So far, so good with the final hurrah storyline with Harold Landry, as we're 1 game away from making him a 4-time champion before he potentially rides out into the retirement sunset. So let's see who we'll be facing off against. Will it be the Lions or the Panthers? Could we be looking at a rematch from our first Super Bowl, or will we get the best team in the NFC? And sure enough, Clyde Williamson and the Detroit Lions make their first Super Bowl in franchise history. Let's take a look at the Pro Bowl roster first before we head into the Super Bowl. The thing that caught my eye here is Barrett Cherokee with the Jets is only a 77. He's barely improved ratings-wise, which is weird because he's played pretty well with the Jets. Stephon Fingard, former Titan, makes it into the Pro Bowl with the Philadelphia Eagles. That's cool to see. Melly Golden, CB1, former number 1 pick, really living up to his draft status. Other than that, that's about it. So let's now hop into the Super Bowl against the Lions, who are 12-5. They are a 91 overall. If any team's going to beat us, it's going to be the Detroit Lions, led by quarterback Clyde Williamson, who was the very first player drafted in this series, the quarterback out of the University of Georgia, who, of course, led the Bulldogs to a national title his senior season. He's been a great player with the Lions, who have been consistently good since they drafted him, but they have never made it to the Super Bowl. They've got a great group of skill position players with Cam Akers, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, TJ Hawkinson. They've got a really good offensive line. They've got a great safety duo with Derwin James and Alex Weldy on the defense. They've basically kept their entire core from the actual series, and it's paid off as they've finally made the big game. But they don't know what's coming in the beast that is Harold Landry in his final NFL game as he looks to win his 4th championship. This is certainly a bittersweet game, as you all know. I'm a diehard Lions fan, so it kind of pains me that this Lions team, who has finally gotten into Super Bowl, now needs to be beaten. But I know what we have to do. We got to get the job done and win championship number 4. Although if there is one team that we would lose to, I would pick Detroit. The Lions are off to a hot start, but we would answer back. We would tie the game. The Lions would take the lead, though, and they would extend the lead in the third quarter. We're having some troubles here, but we would score a touchdown to bring it within 3. Defense has got to get some stops now. Harold Landry with the sack, but on third down, John Vincent gets 25. On third down, Clyde is sacked by Danny Dorsey, and then Cade York misses a 63-yard field goal. So we're going to hop in, down by 3. Let's win ourselves a Super Bowl, shall we? Elijah Bryant to the 31-yard line. Good first down run. The Titans are in field goal range now, although I'm sure they're thinking more than field goal. Romeo up the middle. Slides into the red zone as he brings it to the 19, and that'll bring us to the 2-minute warning. Second down and 4 from the 14. Kolochi goes short. It's caught by Manny Wilkins. He'll get nearly a first down. Now second and goal. Scotty Piggins is in for the touchdown. The Titans take the lead with 33 seconds left on the clock, and fittingly, it is the connection of Romeo Kolochi to Scotty Piggins. Now the defense has to get a stop as Detroit has all 3 timeouts still available. Here's TJ Hawkinson with, no exaggeration, his 15th reception of the game as he brings it to the 44. Hawkinson has been completely uncoverable today for our defense. Second and 4, here's Williamson up the middle, goes short for Cam Akers, breaks some tackles. He's got to get out of bounds. He does not, and so the Lions are going to have to call their final timeout. Detroit's real shot of winning here would be to send it to the end zone. No short stuff, especially with no timeouts left. Clyde Williamson's pass is intercepted. Cardell Simpson, just like in the AFC Championship, he'll finish it off with an interception, and this one is over. That's revenge. Clyde Williamson, when he won the national championship in the Season 1 of the NCAA Next Up Series, who did Georgia beat? South Alabama, who was led by Cardell Simpson, and Simpson finally gets his revenge. The Titans win Super Bowl 65 over the Lions, 24-20. We are now 4-0 in Super Bowls in this series. We've beaten the Panthers, the Seahawks, the Packers, and now the Lions. What a performance here from the team. The defense, who had really struggled throughout the playoffs, came up clutch in this game down the stretch. The offense wasn't perfect, but we made plays when we needed to, which is ultimately enough to get the job done, as Romeo Kolochi, in just his 6th NFL season, will hoist up the Lombardi Trophy once again. And at 27 years old, he is now a 4-time Super Bowl champion and a 2-time MVP. That's one hell of a legacy, and his career is just starting. Now, Romeo did not play the best of games. Him and Clyde Williamson were both fine. I mean, they weren't, like, bad, but neither quarterback was all that great. TJ Hawkinson deserves some MVP love, even though his team lost. He caught 15 passes for 172. Look at all the sacks, though. The pass rush was unbelievable. 2 sacks for Babatunde Mamadou, 2 sacks for Harold Landry in his final NFL game, and then Cardell Simpson and Caleb Farley both with interceptions. I assume one of the defensive players will win Super Bowl MVP. I hope it's Harold Landry, because that'd be one hell of a way to go out on top. So that is how Harold Landry's NFL career comes to a close, with 2 sacks in the Super Bowl, and he is now a 4-time champion heading on into the sunset. What a career for Harold Landry, who, of course, signed an extension prior to the series, so we were basically forced to hold on to him with a big extension, but it really worked out. Every single season in this series, he had at least 9 sacks, even into the long-term sim. He didn't lose a beat. He was a great player. The thing with Landry, though, is while he was a good regular season player, he was great in the postseason. Whether it was the actual series or the long-term sim, he was a different beast in the playoffs, finishing with 128.5 career sacks, nearly 200 TFLs, a legacy score of 18,461. That should certainly bring him into the Hall of Fame. So now the question is, who's going to win the game's MVP? Shockingly, they did not give it to anybody on defense. It ends up going to Romeo Kolochi, which feels kind of undeserved because he wasn't all that good. I feel like it should have been one of the pass rushers or one of the DVs. Caleb Farley won the Defensive Player of the Week. He could have given it to him, although I was really hoping for Harold Landry. But nonetheless, Romeo adds to his legacy as he now has 2 Super Bowl MVPs, and that'll bring us into the offseason of 2030. Here's a look at the retirements, headlined by Deontay Johnson, TJ Watt, Baker Mayfield, Montez Sweat, Juju Smith-Schuster, Elgton Jenkins, Chris Lindstrom, Marshawn Lattimore, Joey Bosa, Hollywood Brown, Najee Harris, Joe Mixon, who, by the way, has shattered Derrick Henry's touchdown record, and then there's Harold Landry, of course, at the bottom. So we've got some guys to re-sign. We don't have a lot of money, only $27 million. Harold Landry retiring does clear up quite a bit of money, though, so we're able to re-sign Nate Davis. We're able to re-sign Colin McCain, who's coming off a career year for us in the secondary. I want to sign this tackle, Elton George. The price tag has gone up a little bit. He still accepts. We will be letting go of Apis Phillips. I don't think we really need him. We've got some other good pass rushers, and I don't want to use all of my remaining cap space on him. I'd rather hold on to the money. Whoa, Josh Allen is a free agent. We obviously don't need Josh Allen, but I'm surprised the Bills let him go. Got some good players here in this free agency class, but I do want to be smart with how we spend this money. I do want to add to the pass rushing. We're going to add Musa Adiwar, who was drafted in the first round all the way back in Season 1 by the Commanders. He wasn't all that good with Washington, but he's been with the Raiders the last few years, and he's turned into a pretty good player. We need a new backup quarterback, and I think having Kane Sanders would be kind of funny. Kane Sanders has been with Houston this whole time. He has been their backup over the last 4 years, and I figured, why not add him as a backup? We're the only offer for him so far, although going into Stage 2, he did not originally accept, and now the Dolphins want him, and we don't have enough money to pay him more. So instead, we're going to look at Ernie Capellar, the former Florida quarterback. You may remember him from the Next Up series as the guy who was pretty good in the regular season, but awful in the playoffs. We have the fifth-year option for defensive tackle Danny Dorsey. This is a no-brainer. Dorsey is a really, really good player. That first-round pick has been a total hit so far, and we're obviously going to give it to him. Musa Adiwar and Ernie Capellar would both accept. Josh Allen signs with the Raiders. Why? They have Justin Tucker. They don't need him at all. So now poor Justin Tucker is going to be a backup. Teams who were active in free agency include the Giants. They signed Gregory Rousseau and T. Higgins. To add to Josh Allen's new offense, the Raiders added A.J. Brown and Trey Smith. It's also worth noting former Titan Carlisle Kaplan signs with the Saints. He was with the Panthers last year. Michael Pittman is back in the division as well. That stinks. He signs with the Texans. And here's a look at the NFL draft. This is a really talented draft class with some really good players at the top. The Giants drafted another quarterback for no reason, but our draft was really good. By far the best one we've had yet in the long-term sim. Our first pick, Lamar Cloud, is a 6'4" corner with 94 speed and hidden development. So we're basically adding Tariq Woolen to the team. We got a good linebacker with Alani Trainer. We got two really good offensive linemen with Swinton and Nickerson. Both offensive linemen have hidden development. And then corner Nick Pinkston also has hidden dev. So we had 4 hiddens and 4 guys over 70 overall. What a phenomenal draft class, as that brings us into Season 10 overall, the second season of the day, and the 5th season of the long-term sim. The offense is pretty much the same as last year. We do have those 2 new rookie offensive linemen who are going to be backups this year, but could be starters within the next season or two, and our long-term offensive line looks really good. As for the defense, Musa Adiwar will slide into that defensive end spot. And I think the team looks good. We're only an 89 overall. The rating has gone down a little bit, but I'm not too worried about it. We'll start the season against the rising Houston Texans in Week 1. We don't have many primetime games this year, only 3. I don't know why so low. As we make it to the midseason point, we're 5-2 atop the division with the Texans. Got to give credit to Houston. They've really turned it around. I figured all of these high picks and all these talented players would eventually lead to success. It's taken a while, but it has. We only have $17 million to spend here, and we've got a lot of players we need to bring back. Evan Smith, Athanase Gothero, Nate Davis, and others. Gothero is a super high priority. We're going to bring him back for 4 years, but now we have no more money, which is a problem. It's a good thing we drafted those young offensive linemen, but I'd like to get some value for Evan Smith if we're not going to keep him. So we're going to trade him to the Eagles for Connor McCarthy and cornerback Paul Gaddis. Connor McCarthy also has superstar development. He's pretty much just as good. The Eagles are going to be paying part of his contract, and we've got him for an additional 2 years after this one. So he's a cheaper option than Evan Smith, and he's just as good. We would end up getting the number 1 seed this year. The team was outstanding. Romeo Colucci took a slight step down. The turnovers are a little high. The completion percentage is a little lower, but he was still really good with going for nearly 4,600 yards and 40 touchdowns in the air. The skill position guys all did quite well too. Elijah Bryant with a great year on the ground. Hot Rod Pryor ended up leading the team in receiving, although Pickens still got over 1,000 yards and double-digit touchdowns for the 9th consecutive season. And then defensively, R.J. Robinson had a great year. Double-digit sacks for Mamadou, Boa Kamoa, and Musa Adiwar. Good stuff out of the pass rush. Let's take a look at the rest of the league. I don't think Romeo's quite good enough to win the MVP. There are a lot of good quarterbacks here this season. Josh Allen had a great season for the Raiders, while Justin Tucker, unfortunately, had to rot on the bench. I feel bad for Justin Tucker. He deserves to play. He only threw 2 passes this year. Dior Antoine won the rushing title. He's a 99 overall. He's turned into, unsurprisingly, a legitimate superstar with the Niners, which is what we expected with him coming out of Rutgers. Bryson Smith leads the league in receiving. Traylon Burks with another great year with the Saints. Burks has turned into a legitimately great player with New Orleans. Good for him. As for blocking and the defense, Michael Merriman led the league in tackles, 5'9", 260. R.J. Robinson was 5th. Gilbert Smith leads the league in sacks of 23.5. Christian Fulton, the former Titan, leads the league in interceptions. Fulton has been with the Broncos over the last 8 years, and he continues to play really well for them. So as we take a look at the bracket, we are the number 1 seed in the AFC. The Panthers are the number 1 seed in the NFC, just like Season 5 of the actual series. Could we get a rematch of the Super Bowl possibly? Carolina's been close recently, but no cigar. We'll be facing off against the Houston Texans here in the second round. We have not played against the Texans yet in the postseason. They ended up being the top wild card. They demolished Josh Allen and the Raiders. That's what Las Vegas gets for selling their soul to the devil by replacing Justin Tucker for really no good reason. The Texans started this game off pretty strong, but we are hanging right there with them. Although it does feel like Houston kind of has control. We finally take our first lead as it's now a 4-point game, looking to finish it off. We're up by 11. We should be good, but the Texans had a touchdown and a 2-point conversion, and then our offense would be stopped. So the Texans are going to get the ball, albeit at the 4-yard line, with a minute left and no timeouts. They are led by the Harvard graduate Michael Lindholm at quarterback. He gets it for a gain of 15, but with no timeouts, they've got to move quickly here. 2nd and 10 from the 15 with 46 seconds left on the clock. Lindholm looks to throw it. His pass is caught by Tim Griffith, who gets it to the 34 as their kicker, Jose King, warms up. Pass is caught by Chad Johnson, breaks a tackle, breaks another. Tackle him, for Christ's sakes! Chad Johnson gets it all the way to the 24, and he's out of bounds to stop the clock. The Texans are not going to waste any time. They're going to go for the field goal to tie it up from 37 yards out, to knot this one up at 35. It is up, and it is good. And we are going back to overtime, most likely, barring some Hail Mary. We saw it happen with the Bengals. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen here. As you all know, tails never fails. The Texans got the memo, but this happened to be one of the 20% of the times it lands on heads. And so we win the toss, and we'll start with the ball. You love to see it. Let's see what the offense can do here, trying to set the tone, get some early points, just like we did with the divisional round last year against the Dolphins. First play of overtime from the 26-yard line. Melly Golden is in the zone. Don't throw the ball near him. Kalochi goes downfield. It's caught by the defense! Derek Stingley with the interception. Oh, no! That's not good at all. So Derek Stingley forces a massive turnover. All the Texans need is a field goal, and they've got great field position from the 41-yard line. 3rd and 4, short pass is caught out of bounds. They originally ruled it incomplete, but the booth would review it, and it would be reversed. Instead of kicking the game-winning field goal, the Texans are going to go for it on 4th and inches, and it's broken up by Caleb Farley. The Titans dodge an absolute bullet. The Texans got the ball past the 50, only needed a field goal, and they get stopped. New life for the offense. They've got to capitalize as Scotty Pickens starts things strong to the 41. All Tennessee would need is a field goal to win the game. 3rd and 2, Elijah Bryant will not get the first down, and so it's time for the field goal unit to come out on the field. A 52-yard try for Norman Spears, who we drafted a couple years ago with Mr. Irrelevant. On to win it. It's up, and that kick looks like a beauty. Right down the middle. Him being iced by the Texans does not matter, and the Titans somehow survive. I don't know how we won this game. After Kalochi was intercepted on the first play of overtime by Derek Stingley, I thought it was over. The Texans got the ball past the 50, only needing a field goal, and they did not score because they couldn't convert on 4th and inches. Both Michael Lindholm and Romeo Colucci played really well in this game, a duel between the two quarterbacks. Tim Griffith was great for Texas. Romeo Hannon, the offensive tackle, allowed 4 sacks. Birdmeyer Vincent with 2.5 and Cyrus Okpoko with 2. So the Florida duo combines for 4.5 sacks. Let's get a rematch with the Bengals here in the AFC Championship. The last time we played against the Bengals in the Conference Championship, you all know what happened. The Hail Mary to win it by Cincinnati. There's been a noticeable trend in this series. Whenever we lose to teams in the playoffs, we always play them again in the postseason, and we always beat them. We've got the lead here so far. Our defense is playing great, but the Bengals are within 1 score. The offense would score, though, and add a 2-point conversion. We're up by 14. We should be able to finish off the job, and we will. The Titans are going back to another Super Bowl, our 5th appearance within the last 6 years as we get revenge on the Bengals, beating them 28-21. Romeo Colucci was not all that great, but good enough to get the win. Scotty Pickens was phenomenal, and then the defense was really good too. We did kind of let our guard down in the 4th quarter, but still very good. Danny Dorsey leads the way with a couple TFLs and 1.5 sacks. So we'll be facing off against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the Super Bowl. Of course, one of the 4 teams we are considering for Madden 24, along with the Rams, the Cardinals, and expansion. Here's a look at the Pro Bowl rosters as we prepare for the Super Bowl against the Buccaneers, who are the 7th seed in the NFC. The Bucs finished under 500. They went 8-9. They scratched and clawed their way to the Super Bowl, but they've beaten the top 3 seeds on the road to make it here. So, in the first Super Bowl today, we faced off against Clyde Williamson, the quarterback who led his team to a national championship in Season 1. Let's get a look at Sterling Yorkshire out of TCU, who led his team to a national championship victory in Season 2. He was a 3rd-round pick by the Bucs and immediately has become a starter. Caden Reed, the former undrafted free agent, is one of the best receivers in the league. They've also got Matt Levine, Noah Fant. They've got a great offensive line. And on defense, they have 99 overall pass rusher Josiah Wake out of Texas, who is a really, really good player. So let's hop into Super Bowl 66. The Titans have won Super Bowls 61, 62, 63, and 65. We've got 4 rings, and now it's time to add a ring for the thumb and fill up the whole hand. We'll see if we can get the job done. We seem to have the early lead, 17-3 going into halftime. Yeah, it looks like we're going to be good. We're up comfortably here in the 4th quarter. And there you go, folks. The Titans have won ring number 5. We defeat the Buccaneers 24-13 in Super Bowl 66, adding another trophy to the trophy case. We're now 5-0 in Super Bowls within the series, and we can now fill our entire hand with Super Bowl rings. How cool is that? Romeo Colucci in 7 NFL seasons has won 5 Super Bowls. That is an insane pace. Tom Brady with his 7 rings better be holding on to them tight because Romeo Colucci is coming. Whoa, pause. Romeo has probably well over 10 seasons left in his NFL career, and if we can keep this team together for a little while longer, you gotta think we're gonna win 3 more the way we've been tearing up the entire league through the long-term sim, as number 5 holds his 5th Lombardi Trophy. A big win here for the Titans, of course. The defense played really well here. Romeo Colucci was fine. He wasn't bad. He was better than Sterling Yorkshire slightly. Elijah Bryant had a good game. Matt Levine leads the way receiving for the Bucs, but it was the pass rush who really dominated. I think we had 10 sacks in this game, 3.5 from Danny Dorsey, and then 3 for Babatunde Mamadou. Got to assume one of them wins Super Bowl MVP. Considering Dorsey's numbers are a little bit better, I assume it would be him. And there you go. Danny Dorsey is the MVP of Super Bowl 66. On to retirements. I noticed that players from the first draft class, like Coland Keepers, are retiring. That's how far along we are. Pittman, Brandon Ayuk, Terry McLaurin, Jair Alexander, A.J. Brown, Denzel Ward, Max Crosby, Frank Ragnow, Josh Allen, the pass rusher, Josh Sweat, former Titan, Fred Warner, Deebo Samuel, and others. Call it a career. Some more players who were drafted in this series include Latavius Merrington, Charles Wiggins, and Hobson Eade. I remember all these guys when they were in college, and now they're old enough to retire from the NFL. So we have negative $14 million to spend. I think it's fair to say we're not going to be able to bring any of these guys back because we are dirt broke. Nate Davis and Musa Adiwar are both gone. They're both cheap and they're both good, which sucks because we'd be able to re-sign them really easily. There's Malachi James, Mr. Hail Mary, in what is a pretty weak free agency class, so at least we're not missing out on anybody super good here. If I were to trade somebody to clear up cap space, it'd probably be the combo of Babatunde Mamadou and Danny Dorsey. But the two of them just combined for 6.5 sacks in the Super Bowl. We're going to choose those two over Nate Davis and Musa Adiwar. We have a 5th-year option for Jeremy Mayweather, the former #1 pick. He's been a disappointment. I'm going to say no. You know who's not been a disappointment? Tight end Richard Costanzo. He is really good, and so we will accept the 5th-year option on him. He is superstar development and is an awesome player. We ended up signing nobody in free agency, considering we're broke. The Texans did add former Michigan State running back Joshua Calico to add to their already talented offense. Calico's coming off a career year with the New York Giants. Mac Jones is now with the Broncos, while New England's new quarterback is 39-year-old Dak Prescott. Nate Davis signs with the Saints, leaving the Titans after like 12 or 13 years. Musa Adiwar remains unsigned. I assume somebody should pick him up. The guy just had 12 sacks. Here's a look at the first round of the 2031 NFL Draft. Our draft class this year wasn't as good as it's been. We decided to pick a quarterback in the first round with Josh Farrell. We don't have many holes. Farrell was projected to be a top pick, so the value is there, and he can be a cheap backup over the next 4 years because we don't have any other backup quarterbacks on the roster. Damian Coffey at safety was the only other player with hidden development. So as I was cutting players before the season, there were some interesting things here. We have plenty of depth at corner, and we should cut Caleb Farley and Cardell Simpson. Scotty Pickens, low overall. He's a 98. Elijah Bryant doesn't meet our standards. He's a 99. What standards do you have, EA? Here's a look at the roster going into the final season of the day. No more Nate Davis on the offensive line. That's going to feel weird. In terms of OG Titans left on the roster, we're down to 1. Caleb Farley is the final player from the original roster who is still on the team. We're going to kick off with the Texans again to start the season, just like we did last year, a rematch of the AFC Divisional round. At the midseason point, we are 3-4 and in last place in the division. Lucky for us, the division is close. The other 3 teams are all 4-3, but we're a game behind everybody. We've got some groundwork to make up, so let's hope we do that. Also, for what it's worth, we will have some guys to re-sign, and we don't have a lot of money to do it. We're definitely in a little bit of the pickle here with only $50 million to spend, but here's the thing. Scotty Pickens and R.J. Robinson want huge extensions, and we can't let those two go. Those two guys are really good. Scotty's going to take up 30, RJ's going to take up like 15. So that leaves everybody else, Danny Dorsey, Hot Rod Pryor, Imani Ward. How are we going to sign these guys? Let's start with Pickens and Robinson, make sure they're back. Scotty Pickens is going to sign on a $120 million extension over 4 years. R.J. Robinson, we're going to give 5 years for close to $75. So now we're down to $9 million, and we have 3 very good players who are not under contract next year, and they all want double figures in terms of annual value per year. So let's simulate to the end of the year. I do have some good news. We did end up finding a way to win the division. Now, the team wasn't all that good. We went 9-8, barely winning it, getting the 4 seed, but hey, we still won it. It seems like the reason why the team underperformed this year is because we turned the ball over a lot. Romeo Colucci threw 16 interceptions this year. Other than that, he was good, but it seems like we just turned the ball over a lot, which almost is a good thing because turnovers are very fluky plays, and that doesn't always tell you the whole story about a team. So if he cleans those up in the playoffs, I think we'll be fine. It's just a matter of him actually cleaning them up. 16 is a lot. Elijah Bryant had a good year on the ground. Scotty Pickens led the team in receiving with 19 more touchdowns. Hot Rod Pryor and Quinn Crew over 1,000 yards as well. As for the defense, the pass rush was quite good again. Francis Boa-Kamoa leading the way in sacks. R.J. Robinson and Asher Gonzalez atop the interceptions list. As we take a look at some of the quarterbacks around the league, I think Romeo's interceptions are going to take him out of the MVP race. He ended up actually not finishing in the top 10 at all. Kobe Henderson with the Packers ends up being the rushing champ. Elijah Bryant is around the 10 mark, which is pretty good. Jarvis Carlisle leads the league in receiving again. He finished with the receiving triple crown and probably will win another Offensive Player of the Year with the Los Angeles Rams. Scotty Pickens was a little lower in yards, although he had a lot of touchdowns per usual. As we take a look at the rest of the numbers, Garrett Wilson over 1,000 yards. Kyle Pitts also over 1,000 yards. The sack leader was George Charbonnet II with 23 with the Arizona Cardinals. Brad Bellaford with the Seahawks led the league in interceptions. Scotty finishes 7th for Offensive Player of the Year. R.J. Robinson and Asher Gonzalez and Francis Boa-Kamoa all in the top 10 for DPOY. Romeo was only 9th for the best quarterback, so he really did not have as good of a season for his standards. We had some other guys finish pretty highly, particularly Bola Kamoa, who was third for best linebacker. We'll be kicking off the playoffs against the Dolphins in the wild card round. We had a fun battle with them in the first season of the episode here, so I'm excited to face off against them again. They still have Kareem Kamara, the X-Factor quarterback, leading the way for them. So we'll see if our Titans, despite only winning 9 games, can get the job done. And we ended up dominating this game. Not even close. I would have thought the team with 9 wins maybe doesn't dominate in the first round, but that's exactly what happens. We win 38-7. What a blowout. Romeo Colucci was phenomenal. Kareem Kamara was bad. It looks like he got hurt. So Kane Sanders, funny enough, entered the game. You know, if Kane decided to sign with us, you know, he could have had a ring by now, but oh well, what are you going to do? Caleb Farley with 2 interceptions. He was really good. And that'll bring us to the second round as we face off against the juggernaut New England Patriots, who we did beat earlier in the year. The Pats are 14-3. All the top 4 seeds in the AFC won, so we are now the lowest seed left in the conference. No more home playoff games for us this year. I cannot remember the last time we've had an away playoff game. It has been a minute. The Patriots scored quickly, but other than that, the offense got to work immediately. New England tried to keep up, but it doesn't really look like they will. 39-year-old Dak Prescott only has so much left in the tank, and we would win this game 38-28, moving back into the AFC Championship. Romeo was not great. I think he got injured at some point, so Josh Harrell had to come in. Elijah Bryant also got injured, which is not good, and Hot Rod Pryor broke his foot a couple weeks ago, so Jamie Wheatley had 10 catches for $140. As for the defense, Francis Bolakomo with 3 sacks, 2 interceptions for R.J. Robinson, Asher Gonzalez with 1 as well, and we'll go to the conference championship with a rematch against the Bengals while the Giants face off against the Packers in the NFC Championship, with the Panthers and Lions going down. So we beat the Bengals last year in the AFC Championship. We're 1-1 against them in AFC Championships during the long-term sim. Which team will have the overall edge? It looks like a really back-and-forth game so far. Now we get a lead. Now we're starting to get comfortable. We're up by 2 scores. We're looking good. Can we hang on? The Bengals had a touchdown. They missed the 2, though. It was intercepted by R.J. Robinson. But our offense would be stopped. So the Bengals are going to get it back here. It's a 4th and inches. And they will get it. Tyon Christopher with the first down. It feels weird not having Joe Mixon in this backfield. He rushed for an NFL record 207 career touchdowns. Here's Christopher again. He'll bring it to the 35, and the Bengals are going to have to call their last timeout with 20 seconds left. So they just got to go deep. And as we know, the Bengals know how to do Hail Marys. They beat us with one a few years ago. Burrow will not go for the end zone. Instead, he'll go kind of short for Jamar Chase, who is tackled inbounds. The clock will run out, and this game is over. The Titans are headed to Super Bowl number 6. Can we three-peat again? We've got one more game in front of us. Romeo Colucci was pretty solid, although the turnovers continue to be a problem. He has 5 interceptions through 3 playoff games. That's 21 total through the year. Scotty Pickens was great. He scored multiple times, and then the defense with a clutch stop there at the end. So will we face off against the Giants or the Packers? And sure enough, we will be facing off against the number 1 seeded New York Football Giants in the Super Bowl. We have faced off against damn near half the NFC at this point in the Super Bowl. They'll beat the Packers 33-17. Let's take a look at the Pro Bowl roster first before hopping into the Super Bowl. Our Titans have won 5 Super Bowls in this series. We're 5-0. We're going for number 6. Let's act like Mike. We got to get that 6-0 championship record just like Michael Jordan did with the 90s Bulls. That'd be pretty cool if we can match MJ. But we've got a huge task in front of us against a really good New York Giants team who went 14-3. They're one of the best teams in the league, led by third-year quarterback Denton Mahone, who they drafted at the beginning of the episode. He is quite good. He's already nearly in the 90s. They also still have Cody Kimbrell, the backup quarterback. They still have Elijah Moore. They have Racer Fox, T. Higgins, Maciel Calciano. They have Gilbert Smith, who's one of the best pass rushers in the league, former top pick out of Oklahoma. And they've been able to keep a lot of familiar faces like Evan Neal, Kayvon Thibodeau, and Jeremy Fenelon. So let's hop into Super Bowl 67. The Titans are looking to make it 6-0 in the series in Super Bowls to match MJ. The Giants are really good, though. They won 5 more games than us, and they would take a nice lead in the first half. Oh, God, they're up by 3 scores. This is not good. We're trying to make a comeback here, but the Giants are in clear control of this game, and our perfect Super Bowl record is over. The New York Giants have won Super Bowl 67 over the Titans. Young quarterback Denton Mahone has won a championship with the Giants, and we lose our first championship in the series. We don't need to see the trophy celebration. I don't want to watch it. Romeo Colucci was good, but he threw 2 more interceptions. That's 7 interceptions in the playoffs, 23 total on the season. That's too much. And that was the issue. Hot Rod Pryor with a big game. It looks like he wants that contract extension. He might have just driven up his price, though. Defensively, Gilbert Smith with 2 sacks. He was quite good. Dayton Randall, the former Titan, had a sack as well. Jeremy Fenelon, the talented linebacker of LSU, with an interception. So let's take a look at who ended up winning the MVP. It was unsurprisingly Denton Mahone. He had a great game, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Take some notes, Romeo. Still a very successful episode nonetheless. We make it to 3 more Super Bowls, winning 2 of them. We are now 5-1 all-time in Super Bowls, and now our guys are starting to get older. Scotty Piggins and Elijah Bryant in their 30s, they're starting to regress a little bit. Some of our corners, Cardell Simpson and Caleb Farley, have gotten hit hard by regression. Farley's like an 86, 85 with morale. Simpson's like an 87, so those 2 are really starting to dip quite a bit. All of the players who were originally in the series are at least 29 years old. That's how far we have gotten along here. And so that'll wrap up the episode. Next time around will be the series finale. We're going to go as far as we need to for everybody to retire. Since a lot of these guys are already older, I expect some of them to retire pretty early. Romeo Colucci, I think, is still going to have a lot left in the tank, being a quarterback, only being 30. But other than that, guys like Caleb Farley, Scotty Piggins, Cardell Simpson, Elijah Bryant, I don't know how much longer those guys are going to last, especially the 2 corners who are now 34 and 33 years old. That'll wrap up the episode, though. I hope you guys enjoyed nonetheless. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Don't forget, Madden 24 franchise team reveal is this Thursday. Peace out. Tighten up.